All right, what's up, y'all? So you know how important movement and fitness is in achieving your goals of looking and feeling and performing your best. You know it's important to make movement a part of your health routine. But the problem is there's so many things that you could do. You're probably not sure about what you should do. So you need to know what to focus on. What's going to give you the best bang for buck? What's going to be most time efficient? And what's going to give you the results that you want? So I'm going to share with you today what needs to be your priority. And this is your priority in general, but you could also look short term as maybe like your weekly priority. Now, as I go through this, don't get too caught up and stressed out about understanding how to do everything that I talk about today. What I want you to take away from today is, what is the best use of my time when it comes to fitness? What are the things that I need to be doing? And as I move forward with this process, I'm going to continue to learn how to do these things because I know they're extremely important. Now, I want to first take a moment and help you reconnect with your why behind your fitness and movement. Why is it important? The first thing that comes to mind for a lot of people is they want that aesthetic piece. They know that fitness, movement in general is going to contribute to looking better, maybe having some muscle tone or some muscle size, maybe helping with fat loss. And it definitely does that over time. But I want you to dig a little bit deeper. Why is fitness and movement important? It's because it makes you capable. It's because it allows you to do the things that you want to do in life. It allows you to live a better life, right? So you want to be able to do those things with your family. You don't want to be limited by the things you can't do. You want to be able to hike and explore and climb and play and carry your load and be self-reliant, right? And if you do fitness the right way, then not only does it make you capable and functional in everyday life, but it also gives you the body that you want. Because to be able to do all those things that life requires, it requires a certain amount of functionality and strength, which is going to look a certain way. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. So before I get into specifics, I want to talk about a few concepts that's really going to drive this point home of what's most important to focus on. Okay, and the first thing I want to say is that cardio is not going to be the best use of your time. And I see it all the time. People get excited to begin working out, and the first thing they turn to in a lot of situations is starting to run, or getting on a treadmill and running, or getting on a treadmill and walking, or getting on a Stairmaster. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's better to do something than nothing. But again, if you're like me and everyone else, we have a limited amount of time in every day. And so we want to focus on the things that are going to give us the results that we want. And cardio is just not that thing. Now, if you enjoy cardio, if you enjoy running, then it's great to add it as a part of your fitness routine. But for time efficiency and to get the results that you want, and to be functional and capable and strong and to look great, cardio is not the best use of your time. And there's two concepts that I want to touch on that really drive that point home. The first one is caloric compensation. So a lot of us think that the more we exercise, the better. Because exercise has to be burning more calories than non-exercising, right? And therefore, the more I exercise, the better. Well, that's actually not true. First of all, the amount of energy that you burn during exercise is very minimal, almost unmeasurable. It's just a different way of using energy. So when you think about it, exercise is movement energy, and my muscles and all the things to support my activity are using energy. But guess what's not using energy? My brain's not using energy, my digestive system's not using energy, my recovery and adaptation is not using energy. So it's not that the more you exercise, the more energy you're using or burning. It's just that you're pulling that energy away from something else. Now the reality is that what little extra energy I may burn during exercise, I compensate for consciously and unconsciously by the way that I eat and the way that I change my activity after exercise. So the compensation model says that after exercise, I'm going to consciously and unconsciously change my eating habits. I'm going to want to eat more. And we all notice this, right? You have a really hard training session and afterwards you're famished. And sometimes after a hard training session, you want to reward yourself with a pastry or some kind of a treat. So what little extra calories you thought you burned during your workout session, you're consciously compensating by choosing to eat differently, and you're unconsciously compensating because your body makes you a little bit hungrier. And this happens from workout to workout. It also happens over time. If you have a really hard training session for multiple days in a week, you notice that your appetite completely changes. You have more of an appetite. Now, the other way that we compensate calorically is by reducing our activity consciously and unconsciously. So again, if I have a really hard training session, the rest of that day, I'll probably be a little bit more lazy versus other days. And that's unconscious. But then also consciously, I may decide to rest. I may decide to be lazy. But regardless, my activity levels are changing. I'm eating differently. So whatever extra calories I think I burned during the training session, I'm compensating for consciously and unconsciously. Now, the other reason that working out more and cardio is not the best idea is because of the constrained model of energy expenditure. I was hinting to this earlier, but basically we all spend about the same amount of energy in any given day if we're moderately active, meaning if we're not couch potatoes all day. It's just a question of where that energy is being used. So if I'm exercising, my muscles and all the things to support that activity are using the energy. But if I'm not exercising and I'm working on something work related that's brain intensive and thinking intensive and creative, then I'm using a lot of brain energy. The brain uses more energy than any other organ in the body. And if I'm not using energy in those ways, I still have my vital functions that are always going on. I have recovery and adaptation, which is an energy demanding process. Even during sleep, you're using a lot of energy to recover and to heal. So it's not that the more I exercise, the better. It's the more I exercise, the more I'm pulling energy away from these other vital areas. You would think that if you went out and ran a marathon for 4 hours, you're burning all this extra energy. But what really happens is you're taking that energy away from other things and you feel it. You notice it. You're drained. You're exhausted. You don't have the energy to do anything else really. So tying those two things together, it's not the more exercise you do, the better, because you're not burning extra calories. And cardio is not going to be your best option because you're not burning a lot of energy anyway and you're compensating for it consciously and unconsciously. Now that we have that understanding, what does a good workout program look like? Well, we've already touched on it a bunch up to this point and in previous videos. Your first priority is just having a mentality of being active all day, every day. So that means getting up, taking a walk, taking movement breaks throughout the day, including a little bit of movement after you eat, and having this mentality of staying active all day is going to do more for your fitness than anything else, for all the reasons that we've already talked about. So that's got to be your first priority. Your second priority is to resistance train every part of your body 1 to 2 times per week. Our resistance training means that you're using some kind of resistance, whether it's bands or dumbbells or barbells or machines. It could be body weight resistance. But regardless, you want to train what I like to call the strength-based skills, and you want to do it deliberately with good form, and you want to make it somewhat challenging because it's the adaptation to that challenge that gives us the results that we want. It gives us the functionality, and it also gives us the look that we want. So again, the second piece of a good workout program is going to be resistance training every part of your body 1 to 2 times per week, ideally using the strength-based skills that I'm going to touch on here in just a little bit. And then the third component is going to be a sprint periodically, maybe once a week. And a sprint means that you're just going all out on something. Running sprints are great, but they can be dangerous if you're not used to running. You could do sprints on an assault bike. You could do sprints on a rowing machine. I've recently been doing sprints running upstairs and then walking down, then running upstairs and walking down because it's very low impact when you're going upstairs. But again, without getting too caught up in the specifics, just understanding a good workout program incorporates constant activity all day, every day, having a mindset of being active all day, resistance training every part of your body 1 to 2 times per week using strength-based skills, and then trying to incorporate some kind of sprint periodically. All right, so in previous videos, I've already talked about the constant activity and constant movement, so make sure you reference those. Today, what I want to focus on is these strength-based skills. So let's start with body weight movements, because if you can master your own body weight, that's a huge accomplishment. And with each one of these, you're working towards this movement. So there's a lot of different ways to modify these body weight movements. But let's start with the squat. You got to squat every day. You got to squat to the toilet. You got to squat to a chair. You got to squat to get into a car or vehicle. You want to make sure you're doing it the right way. So just make sure that you learn how to do an air squat properly and focus on your technique and form. I have a great video that shows you exactly how to do that. Next body weight movement would be a pushing movement, and this would be a push-up. Right? If you can't do a push-up, if it's not in your wheelhouse, then there's modifications. You could do push-ups from your knees. You could do push-ups from an elevated position. You could even work on your pushing strength using some dumbbells or a barbell or resistance bands. And then the next body weight movement is going to be a pull-up. Now, again, if a pull-up's not in your wheelhouse, I have a video that shows you how to work towards getting a pull-up, but anything that's a pulling motion that develops your pulling strength is going to work you towards getting a pull-up. So you could do pulling motions with barbells, with dumbbells, and with resistance bands. The next body weight movement is going to be a sit-up. Sit-ups are super functional. You're basically sitting up from laying on the ground, and you can do that in any way that you like. There's not necessarily a perfect form for it. You just want to lay down on the ground and sit up. Now you could do this with your feet put together. You could do it with your feet straight. You could do it with your knees open, with your knees together. Like, it really doesn't matter, because you're just practicing and cultivating the strength of being able to sit up from a lying down position. And then finally, plank holds. Plank holds are powerful because you're engaging your entire core. You're maintaining some rigidity, so you're strengthening your ability to stay in one place, and you're also strengthening all the different muscle groups that help you maintain that rigid position. I have a great video on how to do planks. So your goal is to get to where you could do those body weight movements, but you don't have to wait until you have those body weight movements to do resistance training. So the next thing that you'd want to do is just learn how to lift in these different areas. So first of all, you got a deadlift, and a deadlift is picking up a weight off the ground. You're basically hinging at the hips and bending over versus squatting down with a squat. So with a deadlift, you can deadlift using a barbell, using dumbbell, using resistance bands. And then we come back to the squat. Once you've mastered the air squat, you can start to add a little bit of weight. There's different ways you can add weight. You can add a weight with some dumbbells. You can add a weight holding it using a goblet squat. You can put weight on your back using a barbell. And you can use resistance bands. I have a great video on how to do the squat. Then if you come back to the pushing movement, again, with the pushing movement, you can use dumbbells, you can use a barbell, you can use the resistance bands to increase your resistance and build your pushing strength. And then again, revisiting the pull, you can use barbells, you can use dumbbells, you can use resistance bands to increase your pulling strength. You'd also want to focus on an overhead press, so pushing something overhead. You could use a barbell, a dumbbell, or resistance bands. And then finally, carries. Carries are extremely functional because you're basically just carrying things around. Think about carrying groceries from your car, but you want to do it with really good posture. You're basically picking up some weight in both hands, in one hand, and walking around with it, but being very deliberate with it. And there you have it, folks. The best use of your time when it comes to fitness is not doing a bunch of cardio. The best use of your time is, first of all, having a mindset of being active all day, every day. Walking in the morning, taking movement breaks throughout the day, walking in the evening, and then resistance training every body part using the strength-based skills 1 to 2 times per week, whether it's a dedicated workout session or whether you're finding opportunities throughout the day to do that. And then if you can throw in a sprint session once a week, then that would be icing on the cake, or bacon grease on the bacon. Questions, comments, feedback, even snide remarks, you can send it my way. Keep it real.